Hey friends, I have a guided reading for you today. Feel free as I'm talking to follow along, gaze at the cards, see if anything tickles your own intuition. Remember that some things may resonate with you more, some things may resonate less, but the important part is if you are growing. All right, let's go ahead and get started. I have two cards actually guiding our reading today. We have He of the Fiery Sword, and we have Jihabya. He, the Fiery Sword, to me, I'm getting very much this combination of the Ace of Swords, the Ace of Wands, the King of Swords, and the King of Wands, right? That passionate, fiery energy, the clarity, the ability to cut through confusion, to bring light into a situation. And with Jihabya, this is very much a fairy of, like, our fears being blown out of proportion, making, a mountain out of a molehill. Very kind of connects with that lunar energy when there's something that we're, fearing or something that we don't have the full picture of, that we tend to kind of get ourselves caught up in anxieties about things that don't really have as much foundation in reality. Okay, you have this Five of Wands starting out, okay? The Five of Wands in this deck, we have these two fairy boys. They're given this gift of an egg by another fairy girl. They don't know what's ahead of them, right? They don't know what's in the egg. It could be a dragon, it could be a phoenix, could really be anything. And this is where you've come to a point, maybe that you've received some sort of gift, or that you're coming into some sort of a gift, maybe a talent that you have, or, something that you've received that, because it's still early on, because you're still in the early stages and haven't figured everything out, maybe you're feeling a bit of anxiety, maybe you're feeling a bit of fear about something, and you've allowed this fear and this emotion to grow to such a level that is holding you back from taking actions that you know you need to take. But when you realize that this one small little thing that you've been given is just that one small little thing compared to the world, and knowing that you are being brought into a new point in your life because of the bigger picture, because of this completion, this whole energy, that you are part of something bigger, you realize that you don't have reason to fear, right? Right? You don't have to be the one to save the world. You just do your part, work with the thing that's been given to you, and the universe is going to work out the rest of the details, doesn't work out the rest of the bigger picture for you. And we come into this Ace of Swords reversed, right? The Ace of Swords in this deck is kind of like this hubris type of card, right? When in the upright position, the story was that these fairies in this kingdom had this beautiful magical rose garden, and they had these blue roses, right? And these blue roses, whenever they were in bloom, their community would prosper, and then whenever the plant wilted, their community would wilt. And so they decided one day, let's try to harness this power for ourselves so we can always only have the prosperity, we can only have the blessedness, right? Just have the ups without the downs. And ultimately what happens is when they try to harness the energy of the flower, it ended up killing the whole entire garden. The sword, just kind of causes a lot of problems for them. So in their attempt to maintain, what they saw as perfection is the height of, whatever their ideal, they didn't allow themselves to flow naturally with the rhythms of life, and it ended up causing problems. But we're in this Ace of Swords reverse, so when you realize that the bigger picture is out of your hands, when you realize that you only have your one small part to play, but it is a fantastic and beautiful part, but the universe is going to take care of all the rest of the details for you, the things that are outside of your control, you stop trying to control the ups and the downs. You stop trying to avoid the things that, make you uncomfortable, and you relax into it, and you allow yourself to have this experience of surprise. The Knave of Cups, the Page of Cups, right? You would think of the Page of Cups in the Rider-Waite-Smith having the fish coming out of the cup, right? What I'm getting here is this excitement, this opportunity, these possibilities, right? Just this opposing energy of this, the Ace of Swords, that if you try to control things because you're afraid of what could be coming, versus if you allow the universe to surprise you, if you allow the possibilities to exist for you, that change of mindset, that's when you actually end up being more in flow with life, right? What's the difference between anxiety and excitement? Is just how you think about it, is how you choose to look at it. Like a brain scan of anxiety, of a panic attack, and a brain scan of excitement look exactly the same. So you could choose to frame the new possibilities as, like, I'm scared something could go wrong, or you could move into this Knave of Cups energy and you could say, what are the possibilities? I'm ready for the universe to surprise me in wonderful new ways. You let go of that need to be in control, right? You come to this Four of Pentacles energy, right? The Four of Pentacles, we can think of that as the miser card, right? Somebody, they built up their defenses, they built up, whatever wealth, but they tend to be miserly. When we're coming to this reminder here in this deck, you have this mouse, stealing some of her stores away. The universe wasn't asking you to build a castle. The universe was asking you to build a home, right? You create a structure, you create possibilities for yourself, and new things, new growth, and have this self-discipline in order to create space, but not to separate the world outside of you, right? You want to come into this kind of peace with yourself with the Strength card, right? You realize that, yes, you have been given this gift, this blessing, it is this dragon. You have this incredible power, or, powerful experience or abilities or whatever it is at your fingertips. But in order for this to not cause harm, to not cause destruction, to not cause problems, but rather to work for yours and for the benefit of other people, you come to this peace. You come to, the center inside yourself to where, you realize, like, hey, yes, there are things that are going to come up across in life, but you have the ability to handle them, and they're not really overwhelming. They're not, the end of the world, that you have this peace within yourself. And you go from that Four of Pentacles into the Queen of Pentacles, okay? You realize now that you've created this structure, you've created this thing in your life as a way of nurturing, of creating space, right? The Queen of Pentacles is very much good at self-care, but she's also good at caring for others, creating that warm, safe home, the happy environment, the food, nurturing, caring for yourself, caring for others, right? You come out of this, I need to fight because there's all this possibilities and I need to be in control, to realizing, like, that the bigger picture is outside of your control. You relax, you do your part, you create your environment as a space, not as a guard against all the possibilities of life. And this is where you start to develop, higher spiritual development, higher spiritual awareness, continuing to grow on your spiritual path, right? You come into a fuller embodiment with the priest. When the priest, or the Hierophant, as, would be traditionally in most decks, comes up for me, the whole thing with the structure, the whole thing with tradition, the purpose of that is to embody your spirituality, to embody your practice. That's not to say that, you won't have ups and downs in life, but that your baseline, instead of being here, your baseline gets up here, right? You, through your practice, gradually are taking steps up to be in a more secure position, to be in a leadership kind of a role, leadership kind of reality, and this very energy that you're learning to harvest, that you're learning to harness with the King of Wands here, that, like I said, King of Wands kind of an energy, this power, this passion, this energy, this fire that you have within you, now because you've come into harmony with yourself, now because you've, stepped into this leadership role and, being a guide for others, you create this story, you create this reality, you show how it's done, and you end up literally being a guide for others, right? Our Three of Wands, the two fairy boys, when they had first started out on the adventure, they had this map book, right? This looking ahead, this, where the terrain, or something about what you can anticipate ahead of you, but the adventure in itself still is, something that you have to take part in, something that you participate in. So you've overcome your fears, you move into a peaceful kind of state of mind, you're better embodying that higher kind of spiritual state, you're creating your reality, you're manifesting powerful things, guiding others along the way. They see the example that you have set as the priest, as the Hierophant, somebody who's embodying those qualities, and they learn that emotional regulation themselves, right? You've mastered that regulation, and now it's turn for others, to master that as well. It's a chance for somebody else to see the example of you handling ups and downs in life. That map book, that possibility that you've set as an example for them, and they regulate that themselves. They regulate themselves, and they come into their own strength, and they grow into their own person, this Nine of Pentacles. But in this deck, she may be the self-made fairy, the self-made woman, but she has her little mouse friends, right? You, through the example you set for others by overcoming your fear and, becoming a more embodied individual, is that you help others to get to that point as well. We have the moon. In the moon, like you're walking through the night, you've become familiar with enough of your inner territory, with enough of that in between, to where if somebody else is walking out on the path and in the darkness, that, they're like, oh man, which way do I go? Well, you're this wolf here, just howling over here, over this direction. This is the direction to go, and people will follow that. People will use that as a way to help them to navigate, through the universe, through their life, through the world, and realize that the catastrophes that we have, the pain and the experiences we have, are not the end, right? Death would be that transformative energy, but it doesn't even have to be that massive, super powerful type of thing, right? You can inspire somebody to be able to meet the smaller little things that they were scared of, that appeared to be bigger, and show them that, if you can handle these smaller realities, that this isn't something to be afraid of, right? A lot of people will be scared of the death card, but it is something to be wise about. It is something to be, conscious and intelligent about. It's not death, but it is this devil. It's not death, it's the primordial soup. It's the very essence of life, the very foundation that allows us to create any possible reality. Yes, we can experience painful and difficult things, but we also can experience beautiful and wonderful things, all of it coming from this primordial energy. It's about this conscious choice of what energies you want to engage and what experiences you want to have, right? You have this Ten of Wands. I'm looking at the Ten of Wands, the fairy boy here, the carrying the burdens, being almost to the end. He's got the burden of the dragon. You have, that is, some burden, maybe something that you've been gifted, something that you are meant to carry. But I see all these bindings snapping, right? Which comes out of this, like, yet again, you don't need to, save the world. You do your one thing. You do your one part. You come into this Ace of Wands, right? You don't have to be in the Ten of Wands where, I have to carry all the weight. I have to do all the thing. You just do your one thing. You tell your story. The Ace of Wands is the campfire that the boys and the king and everybody are sitting around. The Ace of Wands, you share from your experience, share from the things you've learned, from the wisdom that you have, and help other people to see that they also can walk the path. You make it easier for the next person, they make it easier for the next person, and so on. All right, friends, I hope this is helpful for you. I hope this is encouraging, gives you this, encouragement to be able to step past your fears and really live up to your highest potential to help guide others. If this has been valuable for you, please leave a comment for me. If you don't know what to comment, you can leave me a sunflower. Sunflower is a spirit guide of mine that'll let me know you see me. And commenting really helps the algorithm to be able to continue to push my videos. If you're not subscribed already, I would love it if you would subscribe. Hit the bell icon and click on all. You're not guaranteed to see a video anymore with the algorithm just because you're subscribed to a channel, so click that all, head into the channel, find a video that resonates with you, and I will see you in the next one.